What up, though, y'all? I'm going to make this brief as possible. Tomorrow launches the first day of my podcast. A lot of y'all receive links, but that's just a trailer to the podcast. The first actual podcast will be broadcast tomorrow, Friday. You can use that link that you have, or you can go on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I'm awaiting Google Podcasts and other podcasts, but I have to be verified first before I'm able to launch on their platform. But on the first day of my podcast, I'm going to show you all who have LLCs or who think about forming LLCs how to get money off your LLC, your Incs, or your corporations. Those three things, I want to show you how to get money if you have either LLC, Inc, or corporation. And I'm going to show you the terminology behind those and why it's important that you utilize them the right way so that if you do get money using your LLC, that you're not responsible for the debt that's incurred or lawsuits or anything that comes along with having an LLC. A lot of people form LLCs thinking that, I'm doing one of the most common thing that people do now. You form an LLC. I asked a few people, I see you got your business already? Yeah, I already got me an LLC. And every time I look up, I say, well, what's your business phone number? They give me their phone number or things like that. The LLC was established as a limited liability company. Now, I'm going to go more into depth about that tomorrow. Limited liability company, the keyword liability, other keyword is limited. You do not want to be liable for anything that's happening with this company. You do not want to be responsible for anything that happened with this company. You need to stop even bragging about you own this company. You might be most people brag about being a CEO, a manager of a company. You very, very seldom hear them bragging about being an owner because with ownership becomes responsibility. And we're going to take the responsibility away. A lot of people received a lot of money during the pandemic. And a lot of them are going to be responsible for that money. And those who structured their business right, it's not going to be responsible for a dime of that money they receive. It's called a corporate veil. I'm going to show you how to put a corporate veil around your business. I have a guest coming on right after that, but I want to lay the groundwork first, but then I'm going to invite this guest on because this guest gets you the money. This guest can show you how to start your business from point A to point B and how to get you money. On the end of that broadcast that's coming up with the interview where you will, if you have an LLC, you will be invited to get some money off your LLC. I'm going to do one thing better. I'm going to make sure you're not responsible for any debt that's incurred when you getting money for your LLC. I'm going to show you how and why they call it LLCs. I'm going to show you what a corporate veil looks like so that the courts can never pierce that corporate veil. Because if it's certain thing that you do, they will allow the courts to pierce that corporate veil, which means you will be responsible for everything that is going on with that LLC. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to understand why those who live on the other side, or those who grew up in privileged areas, understand LLCs, understand corporate business, understand Incs, and understand that I'm not going to be responsible for anything that happens with that. I don't care if I get $1 million loan on it. I'm not paying you back a dime of it because that business is not me and I'm not that business. We're going to learn what the terminology entity means. And then once I get you where I know you educated enough to do what you're supposed to do with the money, I'm going to bring her on and help, and she's going to get you the money. She's ready. She hyped and she ready to go. I can get them that money. They got the LLCs. I said, but I don't want them to fall into some traps that a lot of these predatory loan officers get them into, and they end up owing money, and later on they mad at you or me before get them this money, and then they fall into debt with this money. So I'm going to do the broadcast first tomorrow on how to avoid all that. Tune in, Rico DeQuan, at Anchor Podcast, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. I want to make this short. I just want to leave y'all with one last thing. You're going to get the money. As soon as she come on there, you present her with the LLC. She wants to work on the paperwork, and she know how to get the money. She has the sauce. But I'm going to do the broadcast first to make sure that everything is on the up and up, and you understand how to go about running an LLC without getting in trouble for anything that happens with that LLC. And the last thing I want to leave you with is a name, Jeffrey Epstein. He's been on the news frequently for the last year or two. He hung himself in a jail cell because he was facing charges of sexual assault or something. But he was a billionaire. He lived the life of a billionaire. So now they searching for all his assets and his money. Come to find out, he never had more than $30,000 in his account. But he was considered a billionaire. He owned so many LLCs that when he died, the victims were going after what they thought was a billionaire, but actually was a man who only owned $30,000. Each one of his businesses would, if you add up the sum of the money that they had, it ranges in the billions. But it wasn't his money. He wasn't responsible for it, nor can they go after it. He was a perfect example of what he put a veil around his businesses that the courts couldn't pierce. He kept very little money for himself, and same way with Donald Trump and a lot of them billionaires do. I'm going to show you the sauce on how to get this money and not never, ever, ever feel responsible for the money you get. But if certain things that you will do, you make any kind of mistake with that ink pen, and you will be responsible for every dime you get. You have to pay it back, or you will go into collections and everything else. Tune in tomorrow. I can't wait to see y'all there. Thank y'all.